Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome back to Viltendo. My name is Vil, and in this video, what we're going to be talking about is the top 5 things that we'd like to see from Sinnoh remakes. Now, we already have the Sinnoh remakes announced, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and they're coming later this year to the Nintendo Switch, and I'm very excited. Personally, I like the art style, but I don't want to get too much into that, the art style or anything like that. What I want to talk about is gameplay features that we want to see in the Sinnoh remake. So with this video, I'm going to be the order doesn't matter. It's just 5 things that I particularly want to see, and I think other people in the community definitely will want to see. And especially if we want to appeal more to like casuals and get the game bought more and more interest invested in it by, I can't remember the name of the company, but the company developing it, which is not Game Freak. Hopefully, if they are to see more interest in this, maybe they'll pursue further projects with this, maybe DLC, even a platinum version or something like that of the sort with this series. So the more people that the game appeals to, obviously the better it will sell, etc., etc. We see more support from the devs. So top 5 things that we want to see from Sinnoh remakes. Number 1, I think, in my opinion, is no HMs. HMs were one of the most frustrating things in the first couple generations of games. And it was so annoying to have one spot on your party, in some cases even 2, occupied by Pokemon, just to have them know moves like Whirlpool, Cut, even in some cases Flash, Defog, just to get through certain areas of the maps. And it was really frustrating, especially when you had to learn abilities such as Rock Smash and Strength that weren't bad per se, but compared to other moves that these already like good Pokemon in most cases could learn, to carry around Pokemon or even try to spread them out amongst your team, where you've got your starter who knows Cut and then they know 3 other really good moves, but they're held down by that Cut. You could have a little bit more type diversity in there, but instead you have a low power move like Cut just to get past trees. There's even some games where it's required that your Pokemon at one point do no Cut just to get past certain parts, and it's very, very frustrating. And one of the worst times of this that we ever had was in Gen 4. We had 8 HMs throughout the game, and I can't even remember all of them. There was Cut, Surf, Strength, Rock Smash, Fly, Waterfall. I don't think you could learn Dive. I think Dive was Gen 3 and Gen 6 for the Gen 3 remakes. There were a lot of HMs, and they were very frustrating. And 2 Bidoof can only do so much for you. So yeah, I think that's definitely one of the things we don't want to see in the remakes. Another thing that I think would help with that is the possibility of bringing in ride Pokemon. I definitely think there are options there, and there are definitely solutions to get past the HM problem. Now, number 4 is going to be proper difficulty scaling. Now, one of the biggest problems I had, at least, when I played Diamond, Pearl, and even to an extent Platinum, and Platinum definitely fixed it on a lot of levels, but it still wasn't great, was the difficulty scaling. There were some parts of the game where actually you had more than one option of which gym to go to, and you could pick based on type, except one of them would be a higher level than the other. And it was just like, okay, play your type advantages, you know, play your stat advantages, stuff like that, play smart. But there were other parts of the game where you didn't have those kinds of options, such as the Elite Four, such as parts of the game where you wouldn't have the best Pokemon to work with, like near the beginning, especially, where you were kind of forced into certain choices in order just to get past certain gym leaders with their Pokemon. And I definitely think another part of that is the leveling. I think Gen 5 improved on this quite a bit with its leveling system, where it felt like you leveled up faster in Gen 5, and I hate trying to explain it to people, but it really does. I think it might have just been the Pokemon that the game offers, but I definitely think it felt like, well, Gen 5 leveled up a lot faster than Gen 4, and it's just a really weird thing that I've noticed. When I've played Gen 4 anytime but previously, it always feels like the leveling is just so god-awful slow. And even compared to the generation before it and the generation after it, it feels unnecessarily slow, and it adds more difficulty And one of the number one things that I'm against is difficulty simply for the sake of difficulty. I understand when you're coming up against somebody who has a Pokemon you haven't encountered before. Maybe you don't know their typing, and that's something that you end up having to deal with. But artificial difficulty, such as restricting how fast you can level, restricting the types of moves you can learn before a certain level, and even to an extent being able to use traded Pokemon to a certain level. I would love if I'm able to, like, if they buffed it up just a little bit, like 5 or 10 levels with each badge. That would be fine. That would be a-okay. But artificial difficulty always makes me just incredibly frustrated in every game I play that features it as some kind of main gameplay hindrance. So I think proper difficulty scaling, where there's a challenge, but the challenge isn't insurmountable without some kind of cheat, some kind of weird exploit, or like having to catch a new Pokemon or something like that. Like, I want to be able to grind up my Pokemon and have them do their job and do their job well. Now, number 3 on our list is going to be we don't want to see Dynamax and Gigantamax. One of the most hated features that came out of Sword and Shield, at least to a vast majority of people from a casual standpoint, was Dynamax and Gigantamax. And they're pretty much the same feature. It's just some Pokemon have a Gigantamax form, which just makes them look different, and they get like a signature move. But that's about it. I definitely think Dynamax and Gigantamax were incredibly underwhelming. Excuse me. Especially when they were used as reasoning for not featuring every Pokemon in the Pokedex, and I'll get to that in a minute. But one of the things about that is, by focusing on these new features that didn't really seem to amount to a whole lot throughout the game from a gameplay perspective, definitely was frustrating, because the only thing Dynamax really did for you was it changed your moves, and it changed them into like base generic forms, which honestly took away a lot of the personality from some of the battles. And alongside that, it also only buffed your health, which just made battles a lot more of a slog, as opposed to like facing somebody with a high defense and like maybe not a lot of HP, where you could use cheesy moves that would cut their HP in half, or like Curse or Burns or anything like that. It just kind of felt like you were hitting them over and over and over and over again. It basically just turned Pokemon into these giant sponges, and it was really frustrating, especially with features that we've had before, like Z moves, where there were special effects for certain moves, and they could make your Pokemon all of a sudden like have something really cool. There were even a lot of support Z moves where, for example, the electric type one for magnetism, I remember, where it makes your electric Pokemon float so that they don't take ground damage. And when you use the Z move form of that, it would also raise your evasion one stage. And that was awesome. Stuff like that was awesome. Even Mega Evolution, to an extent, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but Mega Evolution buffed your stats, it gave you a cool form, and in some cases would just make your moves hit a heck of a lot harder. It was insane. I definitely don't think we want to see Dynamax and Gigantamax in Gen 4 remakes. Another smaller part of that is the story behind Dynamax and Gigantamax, which inherently comes from Eternatus, the dragon, the poison dragon. Throughout the story, it's always told that Dynamax energy comes directly from Eternatus. So it really doesn't make sense to have it shoehorned into other generations, especially in remakes, or even in the future. There's not a whole lot of reason for it, because it's said that Galar is the only region that features that. And throughout the games in the past, we've definitely had people from other regions, and we've had people even in Galar from other regions talking about this, where it's like there's no real existence of it outside of Galar. There's no reason for it. Please do not put it in the Gen 4 remakes. I'm begging. Anyways, moving on to the number 2 thing, and this is incredibly unlikely, but I would love to see Mega Evolutions. There are certain things pointing towards Mega Evolutions appearing in Gen 4, but I really don't want to focus on those things. What I want to focus on is, I quite simply just want to see it. I think Mega Evolution was one of the coolest features we have ever had in Pokemon games. I definitely think it was a bit overpowered in a lot of the forms that we had. There were a lot of Pokemon that would instantly become aces simply by Mega Evolving. One really good example of a Pokemon that became an ace by Mega Evolving was, what's its name? Salamence. Salamence normally was just a flying dragon. You could easily take it out with ice. He was pretty soft. He wasn't amazing. And then all of a sudden, he was able to take out an entire team by himself. His type coverage was already there, but then all of a sudden, he had the stats to back it up. Now all of a sudden, he's an ace. He's a centerpiece of a team. Now, maybe if his stats had just been reduced a little bit, it would have been a little bit more fair and balanced, but that's definitely part of what ruined X and Y to a lot of people, was the focus on Mega Evolution. You're even given a Lucario with its Mega Stone in the game. And even the post-game was made a lot easier when you're given a Ralts with a Gardevoir. So all of a sudden, your Gardevoir can now Mega Evolve if you've raised one to this point with max EVs and IVs, and you're able to give them a Gardevoir. Then all of a sudden, you've got a very, very strong Pokemon, one of the most powerful in the game due to its Mega Evolution. It definitely made post-game a breeze. It made so many things just so much easier, while also just taking away the challenge that makes it fulfilling, which is really frustrating. So I definitely think Mega Evolution should be in the Gen 4 remakes, but I want to see it a little bit rebalanced, just so that we still get the cool forms, we still get the minor stat boosts, and we still get more usefulness out of Pokemon that were previously less useful. But I don't want to see it become a focal point, and I definitely don't want to see it become something along the lines of how it was in Gen 6, where it was incredibly overpowered and it was kind of forced upon you in almost every situation, especially throughout the Elite Four. I mean, they all like Mega Evolve, and it was just frustrating. I just want to see it rebalanced and reworked into the game, please. Number one, and this one is gonna sound whiny, it's gonna sound like I'm just hating on Gen 8 for sure, and I would like to emphasize that I am not. I quite simply just want it to be for this specific game, is a complete Gen 1 through 4 Pokedex. At the very least, complete Gen 1 through 4. Every Pokemon from Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, and Gen 4. The same way we had it in the original Sinnoh games. Now, one of the biggest problems with Gen 8 that a lot of people that are more involved in Pokemon had was that you couldn't have every single Pokemon in the game, known as the National Dex. And it's been said that the reasoning for this was because they had to redraw all these sprites for Gen 8 and port them over to the Switch, and there's a billion different reasons that there was no National Dex. And what I'm asking for, and what I think a lot of people would agree with, is that we don't want generations 5 through 8 featured in this game. We just want 1 through 4. So I would love to be able to have a team with a Charizard and an Infernape and a frickin' Sceptile that hopefully can Mega Evolve. And I just want to be able to have a team with some of my favorites from the first 4 generations. And I definitely think with the focus moving forward on Legends of Arceus, there's definitely a lot of room to bring in a more nostalgic piece of the fan base, especially with how popular Gen 4 has always been and probably will be for a long time to come. I definitely think that they can pull together and bring in all of these Pokemon that people grew up with and know so well. And I definitely think it would make these probably the best remakes in the series. I think they've got a lot to stand up to in terms of something like Oris, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver, but I think they can pull it off, and I would love to see Gen 1 through 4 all featured in this game. Now, let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know what features you want to see, what Pokemon you want to see. Do you want to see Gens 5 through 8 in any form? Did you want to see Z-moves? Did you want to see Dynamax and Gigantamax continue? I understand if you do. It's just my opinion, and I think an opinion that other people share. But let me know down below in the comments. I'm Bill, and you guys have a good day.